Straight ahead on WBKB, new COVID regulations for high school athletes.
Plus, a wanted fugitive now captured by police. And today is the last day of winter. Are you ready for spring cleaning?
You're watching Thunder Bay News Network. WBKB News at 6 starts now.
This is WBKB News at 6. An in-depth look at news, weather, and sports. From hard-hitting news stories to local events, we're there with coverage you can count on. You're watching WBKB News at 6.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Sherry Stewart.
And I'm Tyler Cruz. Happy Friday, everyone. Outdoor venues in Michigan can now hold up to 20% capacity.
The Tigers are now able to seat over 8,000 fans for opening day rather than the 1,000 previously allowed. Lawmakers have called for an increase in fans at outdoor stadiums. Today, Governor Whitmer announced that venues that establish infection control plans could welcome 20% of the fans they normally would.
Outdoor stadiums can now go up to 20% capacity with certain COVID mitigations in place.
It was also announced that high school athletes will now be regularly tested for COVID before being allowed to practice and compete. The news comes after the health department has noticed outbreaks that trace back to youth athletics.
Due to the many outbreaks linked to sports, this new order requires youth athletes aged 13 to 19 years old to take part in a weekly testing program to participate in athletic practices or competitions.
Jake Vanderbrook will have more details later in sports.
Over the last several years, meth has continued to reach new levels. WBKB's Stephanie Minichi has more on the uptick we're seeing now.
Before now, meth was manufactured locally. A detective with the Huron Undercover Narcotics Team says it originally went by a different name.
It's called shake and bake, and methamphetamine was made out of pseudoephedrine and was in small doses and made in residential areas or out in the woods.
Today they're dealing with ice or methamphetamine that comes from South America. Lieutenant Sharp says they've also seen a connection between guns and meth. He says the drug is directly related to paranoia and violence.
They become extremely paranoid. Normal sounds scare them or make them believe something else is occurring, and that paranoia extends to a point where they become violent.
Lieutenant Sharp says there are several obvious signs of use and misuse, like open sores on the face and hands or track marks.
Their hygiene is totally abandoned, so there's odor, and they're unkept. There's a lack of sleep, so there's bags and puffy eyes and red eyes, and probably the most telltale sign is rapid decay of teeth.
He stresses the importance for the community to watch out for one another. In Alpena, Stephanie Minichi, WBKB News.
If you see a loved one displaying signs of drug use, MSP offers an Angel program. You can find more information on our website. And a wanted man from the Lincoln, Michigan area has been captured and arrested, according to Michigan State Police. On Wednesday, WBKB announced that 22-year-old James Dominic Gross had been evading arrest after being sentenced for criminal sexual conduct third degree. Based on a tip received by Crime Stoppers, Oscoda Township Police located and arrested Gross, who was hiding in an Oscoda residence. Gross was also wanted for a felony breaking and entering in the Lincoln area.
Alpena Community College students will soon see an increase on their tuition bill. ACC's Board of Trustees voted on a 3% increase Thursday. In-district students will see an additional $4 per credit hour, while out-of-district students will pay an extra $7. The school's administration says tuition was frozen for this school year, but operational costs continue to rise.
When you freeze tuition, which is about 40% of our revenue, this is something that, the business model, the bottom line feels. So we thought this year that was an appropriate thing to do due to the pandemic and people struggling to finance school.
And that increase will take effect this fall.
Firefighters are normally putting out fires, but this weekend they'll be lighting them. For forest management, state firefighters start controlled fires in forests each year. These prescribed burns, as they're called, safely simulate natural forest fires. The DNR halted the burns last spring because of risks related to COVID-19. Fire prevention specialist Paul Rogers says this means firefighters have their work cut out for them in 2021.
We normally burn 5,000 to 8,000 acres a year, and so we're behind a little bit. So we're going to try and certainly try and burn more this year and keep up with it. So.
Prescribed burns have a number of ecological benefits, one of which is removing debris that could otherwise help fires grow out of control. Rogers says the DNR expects a small forest fire or two this weekend based on low soil moisture. And this dreaded Michigan winter is finally over.
Finally. And finally, tomorrow, March 20th, marks the first day of spring. As we start to spring clean our homes, leaders in Rogers City want to see the local area sparkle too. Mayor Scott McLennan is asking for the community to come out for a spring cleanup this weekend. McLennan says to pull out those brooms, gloves, and trash bags and pick up debris, that is, and any other items, and find of them and dispose of them properly.
But if they would be picking up trash throughout the community, along our trails, that sort of thing, they can drop those bags off behind the city public works garage on Linden Street. There's a garbage skip there for them.
McLennan says the cleanup is a week-long event. The Public Works Garage will be open for trash drop-off until Sunday.
And when they're done, my apartment can use some work.
There you go. Well, there is more news ahead for you here on WBKB. Coming up, we'll have your weekly Bagley Street.
Morning climbing into the 30s, 40s to around 50 by midday, and afternoon highs reaching about 56 degrees. It gets even warmer on Sunday, but I'll let you know when chances of rain will move into our area later in the newscast.
Thanks for that, Allie.
There you go.
Rain. What are you going to do? It's going to be hot. Not much has changed from last week with the Bagley Street Bridge. This week, we're taking a look at the workers' safety, which is priority. Project Managing Director Ryan Bragi says they want to see productivity, but safety of the construction workers comes first. He says workers are required to wear vests at all times. If there's work taking place overhead, they wear hard hats and safety glasses if needed. Bragi says for welding and cutting with torches, there's other protective gear in place. He adds, fortunately, on a project like this, they don't have to work closely together, so masks are not necessary to protect against COVID.
Very good. In health news, ways to reduce work-from-home loneliness and why vaccines might not be enough to fully end the pandemic. Elise Preston has some of the day's top health stories.
Two infectious disease experts at Georgetown University Medical Center say COVID-19 vaccines are not enough to end the pandemic. The researchers believe symptomless transmission is driving the spread of coronavirus, and understanding that transmission will be key to eradicating the problem. If working from home is giving you the blues, be kind to yourself. A study in the Journal of Occupational Health Psychology found that practicing self-compassion lessened feelings of work loneliness. Researchers say companies can help employees with clear communication about pandemic responses and job security, and even host voluntary social activities to boost morale. And putting pen to paper may help you remember better. A study in Japan found writing on paper led to more brain activity when recalling the information an hour later, compared with note-taking on tablets or smartphones. Those are some of the day's top health stories. Elise Preston, CBS News, New York.
Coming up on
to wake up to every morning, seeing the sunrise at the shoreline in Greenbush. Thank you, Brooke, for sending us this photo. If you have a photo such as nature shots, pics with friends, or interesting sights you see that you would like to send us, email it along with a short description to news@wbkb11.com.
I think that dog's cute enough to wake me up at sunrise every morning. Well, Sherry, ahead of sports, I have to say I'm really sorry about your alma mater last night. Tough one for Michigan State.
It sure was.
If it makes you feel any better, my bracket is also busted already. Sports is coming up next, but first, Jake Vanderbrook is here with a preview. Jake, what's going on?
Happy Friday. Coming up next in sports, Jared Goff has arrived to Motown as he met with the media for the first time. More on that. Plus, we got some good games in store for you in boys basketball on this Friday evening, as many area teams are wrapping up their regular seasons. More on that when WB.
Before we go, we have a programming note. Starting Monday, you can watch our 6:30 morning news on ABC and CBS. And that's great news.
Yes, it is.
That's all we have for you this evening.
You can read more about our broadcast stories and get the scoop on other news items online.
Just visit WBKB11.com for sports, weather, and news updates anytime, day or night.
And check us out on our Facebook page and Twitter handle at WBKB11.
Be sure to catch us back here tonight at 11 with Kent Davis. Have a great evening.